Happy Friday, everybody. Hope everybody having a blessed day. We just gonna come on here and just recap the Super Bowl. I know it's, the Super Bowl been happened, but we had to get a show on. So I'm joined here today by my brother, Coach 67 Sports TV, and the amazing Brent Foxx. How's everything going with you, brothers?
Really well, really well.
All is well, bro.
And Brent, I know you moving and shaking. I know you have to cut it short a little bit today, but um I'm not worried about it because we're gonna have a little light show today. But we had to talk about the Super Bowl, man. The Super Bowl was amazing. So one of my questions was, what did you think about how both teams performed in the Super Bowl? Starting with you, Brent Fox.
I as far as the performance itself by both teams, it actually was more than expected. Um, the reason why is obviously the score. I did not expect any team to go over 28 points, but I was wrong on that. But they performed very well. Both teams actually performed very well offensively. Defensively, different story, but offensively, it was better than expected.
It surely was, man. A lot of us was anticipating a blowout by either one of the teams. I'm not gonna lie, I'm eating crow because I picked the Eagles to eventually blow out the Chiefs, but the Chiefs came to play. And another thing I wanted to get you on today, Brent, because if you remember your X Factor picks, you knocked it out the park, man. So we're gonna break it down uh, on basically why you picked those players for being the Chiefs X Factors. So, but first, before we go into that, Coach, what was your feedback on the game?
Bro, it was an excellent game. It's probably one of the best Super Bowls I've seen in a long time. Um, I mean, it was a great performance. All the pageantry and everything surrounding the Super Bowl. Uh, because at the beginning of the game, of course, we like to spotlight and focus heavily on the HBCUs. Seeing uh, Doug Williams, which we talked about last week, and I have like a small correction on it because he was the first black quarterback I remember playing in the Super Bowl. But the little small correction was, you know, legendary Joe Gibbs. He was the head coach of the Redskins at the time. Jay Schrader was the starting quarterback, and you know he ended up like getting injured. Not really injured. He got hurt a little bit, and then Doug Williams came in and became the starter. And then once Jay Schrader got back healthy, they went back with him and they put Doug Williams back on the bench. And Doug Williams eventually ended up getting hurt in the playoff run, but Jay Schrader performed. His performance was so terrible that they had to go with Doug Williams. Even an injured Doug Williams in the Super Bowl was outperforming Jay Schrader by leaps and bounds. So that's how Doug Williams ended up becoming the starting quarterback for the Redskins in the Super Bowl. And not only that, but he became Super Bowl MVP. So that was one of my minor corrections. But seeing him, who's arguably the greatest quarterback at Grambling all time, and Harry Carmichael, who's arguably the greatest wide receiver in Southern University history, seeing them, the two of them just talking and just smiling, it represented the HBCUs well and the
It
SWAC in
did.
particular. And overall it was an excellent game. This one of the best Super Bowls I've seen in years. Probably the most enjoyable Super Bowl I had. Even since the Saints won, this probably was the best one. Even though we've had some good Super Bowls over the years, I mean this Super Bowl really stood out. I mean, my prediction kind of went is I picked it. However, I didn't think it would come down to I'm not gonna say the controversial call really is what won the Chiefs the game, but a lot of people saying that in a game of this magnitude, they didn't want it to come out to a call. Even though I think it was an accurate call myself, I think that a few questionable calls went both ways. So from a coaching standpoint, I think it kind of balanced itself out. But overall, it was an excellent Super Bowl.
Very excellent Super Bowl. It was amazing. And gonna go ahead and we're dealing with time. Um, we're gonna go ahead and talk about the X factors for the Chiefs that we all picked. So we're gonna do Brent last, but we're gonna hurry because I know he um got to get off soon. So Coach picked Valdez Skelton for the offense for the Chiefs and Chris Jones. Now you was right on the Chris Jones, Coach. But Valdez Skelton, he did his part. He didn't have um a killer game. He blocked downfield. He did the catch a pass, but he did what he was supposed to do. But Chris Jones, um, he didn't have a sack, but he was very disruptive. Very disruptive. Made room for the linebackers like Nick Bolton to run free, and Willie Gay Jr. and Leo Chenal. So very good pick. I picked Kelsey and Joshua Williams. Now Kelsey, I did not eat crow on. Kelsey was Kelsey. He dominating the game. Basically, he had 6 catches for 81 yards, 13.5 averaging yards and a touchdown. And Joshua Williams played decent. He played decent. So, I mean, but he wasn't the X factor. Now, going to Brent Foxx.
Great picks, bro. Great picks.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you. I appreciate that.
If y'all don't know, if y'all didn't listen to the show last week or the week from last.
No, it was last week Friday.
Oh, last week Friday, yeah.
But it aired Saturday morning.
Yes. Brent Foxx picked Isaiah Pacheco for offense and defense, Chris Jones. So
and Nick Bolton.
Thank you for the correction. He picked Nick Bolton for the defensive. He picked both Nick Bolton and Chris Jones.
He picked both.
And if y'all head was under the sand or you living under a rock, if y'all didn't watch the game, Nick Bolton was everywhere. He was flying to a ball. He picked up a fumble recovery and scored. Nick Bolton had 8 tackles. And I told you about Chris Jones and Isaiah Pacheco. 15 carries for 76 yards, but every time he touched the ball, 5 yards to carry, 1 touchdown, which was a compliment to that passing attack. So, Brent, you being a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, what made you choose Isaiah Pacheco and Nick Bolton, especially Isaiah Pacheco? How did you have an idea he was going to do well against this very aggressive Eagles defense, especially that D-line?
Honestly, and Coach knows this as well. And thank you, by the way, Coach, for the compliment. It really means a lot coming from someone that does this on a day-to-day basis, man. So I appreciate that. But yeah, what made me actually choose Pacheco on offense was I knew that the Philadelphia Eagles had a good pass rush, and then also that their secondary was pretty good. And, with Pat Mahomes actually seemingly being limited with an ankle injury and things of that nature, if he had to drop back and pass a whole lot, it wasn't going to be good. But, and then having said that, you need something like the running game or short passing game to kind of help out or alleviate the pressure that would be on Patrick Mahomes if, the game came down to just carrying the team on his back. Now, what I didn't expect was for Patrick Mahomes to actually show out and scramble for maybe 35 plus yards on a bad wheel and really embarrass the defense of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yes.
That one, yeah, that one took me by surprise. The defensive X factors, the reason that I chose those were pretty obvious. It was because the Philadelphia Eagles like to run a zone read offense, where you're either giving it to a hot Miles Sanders, who was hot at the time, or even more dangerous threat with Jalen Hurts, who could actually gash you running the ball or could outwit you passing the ball. He threw a beautiful pass to A.J. Brown for that touchdown, man.
Yes, he did.
He put that right in the bucket, man. But yeah, those were the reasons that I actually chose those particular X factors. It's just based off of kind of how each team is actually set up, what their strengths are, and you have to find maybe like a soft point to where you can kind of attack them and win that particular aspect of the battle.
Yes, sir. Very well said. Very well said.
And just to kind of elaborate on the Pacheco X factor, I did not anticipate the Eagles playing so much cover two. That's really what allowed him just to run crazy, was the fact that they played so much cover two, and they left the Eagles vulnerable in the run game, and they ran the ball a lot. I mean, there were instances where, they were never too far behind to where they had to abandon the running game. But there were
hold on, Coach. I'm gonna let, since you already started cooking and you already entering into the next question. I'm gonna let you start first. And the next question was, what happened to the Eagles defense?
Yeah, I mean, bro, they played a lot of cover two. And for people that don't know, they had two high safeties. They played that cover two shell, two high safeties, and they played man underneath. And essentially what they were doing, I guess they anticipated, because, all season long, they were able to get major pressure just with their defensive lineman up front. I don't think they anticipated the Chiefs running the ball as much as they did. I'm not going to lie. I didn't anticipate it either. I knew Pacheco would get his touches, but I didn't think they would run the ball as much as they did. And that's what just allowed them, the fact that they played so much cover two, that allowed him just to run a lot. And then it got to a point where, later on in the game, like in the second half, where, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he was kind of cognizant of that. And he did his best Bob Sanders imitation, and he just came on a couple of times and cracked Pacheco, but it didn't discourage the Chiefs from running the ball. They knew, hey, as long as they stay in their cover two shell, we're just gonna keep running the ball, and that's what allowed him to have so much success running the ball. But from the passing standpoint, the Chiefs, they just gonna do what they do, and the fact that they played cover two, it left Travis Kelce open a lot too.
And also, I want to add one thing: if you're gonna stay in that cover two, your D line has to be disruptive. So I'm looking at these stats. There wasn't a lot of tackle for losses, or the Eagles didn't get no sacks, fellas, at all. So what did you think happened on the D line for the Eagles?
I mean, they front four have been productive all season, but the Chiefs' offensive line played well, and they neutralized them. So, for all intents and purposes, it was nothing that I don't think that the Eagles coaches anticipated that the Chiefs' offensive line was going to be able to neutralize the Eagles, front four, and that made the difference in terms of it ran the ball, and like Brent Foxx was saying, it relieved some of that pressure off Pat Mahomes to where he didn't have to drop back as much. And in addition to that, it kind of set the table for their passing game also. So, they, from a strategic standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, from an X and O standpoint, it was a brilliant game plan in terms of the way things played out, and it worked in the Chiefs' favor offensively.
It did. It definitely did, man. It's and it was shocking that the O-line played well. And now, I'm not saying the Chiefs' offensive line is horrible. They got all pro. In my opinion, one of the best tackles in the game was Orlando Brown Jr., which my Ravens was stupid enough to trade him because we thought we had the better tackle in Stanley, but he didn't. He bullied those defensive ends, Orlando Brown Jr. And the other tackle, I mean, he didn't play too shabby himself. That offensive line seemed more physical than that aggressive defense for the Eagles. They were pushing people around. They were making holes. They held up their blocks long enough where Mahomes could do his thing. And I don't care. You can have the best secondary in the league. If you don't get to Patrick Mahomes, and you can almost say that Patrick Mahomes is Tom Brady in this instance. If you don't get to Patrick Mahomes, if that defensive line does not do his job, he's gonna find somebody open downfield, especially with him using his legs. And the defense did not sack anybody. Didn't they get a bad roughing the passer?
Yeah, I mean they got a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got a couple questionable calls. I know the play you're talking about, but I think in fact it kept the Chiefs' drive alive. However, the play that everybody really has been raving about, at the end of the game was the defensive holding call. It really could have been pass interference or defensive holding. If I'm not mistaken, I think they called it defensive holding. Maybe it was pass interference, either or. But that was the call that that really got people stirred up. But the call you talking about, it was pivotal in terms of determining the outcome of the game. Also, both were.
Yeah. Very
If
pivotal.
I'm not mistaken, that happened on third down, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
It kept the drive going. Because at that point, the Eagles was winning, and it kept the drive going, and it kept the Chiefs close.
Yes, sir, it did. And
yeah, because I don't mean to cut you off, bro. If I'm
No,
not
you good.
mistaken, I think they were down by 2 scores at that point also.
Yeah,
They
you're
was.
right. We were down by 10 at halftime, so yeah.
So that with us saying that, we're gonna move on to the Eagles X factors and why they didn't produce real quick. So looking at the notes, Brent Foxx picked Miles Sanders, which Miles Sanders, gentlemen, he only had 7 carries for 16 yards, 2.3 yards a carry. Of course, Jalen Hurts had 15 carries, 70 yards, 4.7 averaging, and 3 touchdowns. And for defense, Brent Foxx picked Fletcher Cox, which he didn't do. He only had 1 tackle, gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say this: did y'all remember me saying that if Fletcher Cox don't have a big game, who else has to step up?
Javon Hargrove.
Yes.
I mean, Hargrove, Graham, Sue, Cox, all of those guys were almost practically invisible during the course of the game.
Yes. You got to hand it to the O-line of the Chiefs, man. You got to. Coach, you picked Smith, Devontae Smith.
Hello?
I'm echoing bad on your end.
Oh, all right. Hold on 1 second. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
But I still have the echo.
Oh, all right, all right. In fact, let me go out and come right back in.
That's fine. But what I was saying, Brent, was Coach 67 Sports TV picked Devontae Smith, which he had a great game. He had a 7 reception, 100 yards, no touchdown. But if you remember that long pass he caught down the field, which put him in scoring distance.
Yep.
So you're not eating crow on that. Salute, Jay Barth. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you. And for defense, he picked C.J. Gardner Johnson. Well, of course, we knew, knowing Coach, loving his Saints, he was gonna pick him. And he got a little nasty there, hitting people, coming downhill. And
I'm not gonna lie, he smacked Pacheco twice.
Yes,
I thought it was gonna discourage Pacheco, but it really didn't. I mean, the Chiefs just kind of stuck to the script and they just kept running the ball. I kind of went out when you was talking about the offensive. I picked Devontae Smith. They made a conscious effort to get him the ball early, but once A.J. Brown got going, that just kind of disappeared.
It definitely disappeared. But he played good. I wouldn't say he was an X factor, but he played decent. He came to play.
Well, I mean, from a coaching perspective, like for example, if I'm picking the Chiefs, I really can't pick like Pat Mahomes as an X factor because he's the focal point. Somebody like Pacheco really would be your X factor. And from the Eagles' perspective, if you pick like A.J. Brown or you pick Jalen Hurts, I mean, those kind of like the two catalyst players on the offense. So somebody like a Miles Sanders might be an X factor. But really outside of Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, I really don't see anybody for the Eagles that really, left their fingerprint or imprint on the game. So, I mean, like I said, I think they made a conscious effort to get Devontae Smith the ball early, but really outside of Hurts and A.J. Brown, there was really no real X factor for the Eagles offense, maybe for the exception of the offensive line, maybe. But in terms of their skill players, I really don't see anyone that really had a huge imprint on the game,
Yeah. And this is random, fellas, just in. Greg Hardy had a bare knuckles fight today, and he got knocked the heck out in the second round.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
Bro, him doing that, it kind of reminds me of, Roy Jones Jr. still fighting at this point, or Floyd Mayweather Jr. having exhibitions. It's like at this point, unless you need the money, like what's the purpose in, doing these type of things? I mean, you had an NFL career. I mean, had he stayed out of trouble off the field and managed his money properly, he would need to do this. So, I mean, it's kind of, it's, from a fan's perspective, it's a little bit embarrassing when guys at this stage and at this age have to do these things, so it's ridiculous.
It is. And, I mean, he had a decent run in MMA, not bad, not great, but, he started getting beat up by fighters that knew what they was doing. And then he just beat up the dude. He beat up that dude that was supposed to be fighting Jake Paul. That was his recent fight, and then to be knocked out in bare knuckle brawl, man. Yeah, you need to relax. And you already played a sport.
Violent sport.
Violent sport. You would see exactly. So,
yeah.
And that's why I was looking like Why Frank Gore and Adrian Peterson boxing?
Yeah, we saw who got the better of that one, you know.
Yeah. Le'Veon Bell. He knocked out Adrian Peterson. But back to what we was talking about, the X factor for the Eagles that we picked last week. I picked the Eagles to win, and I thought Hurts was going to do it. And I'm not eating crow there because he was definitely an X factor for the Eagles. He had 27 completions, 38 attempts, 304 yards passing, and 1 touchdown. And of course, on the ground, 15 carries, 70 yards, 70 yards, 4.7 yards a carry, and 3 touchdowns. So it will be safe to say if the Eagles, excuse me, folks, for the hypotheticals, but it'll be safe to say if the Eagles won the Super Bowl, he'll be the MVP, right?
Yeah, there was a strong argument for that, even
Definitely.
in a losing effort. So I'd say yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And then, unfortunately for my defense, I put not unfortunately for him because he's a great player, but as far as him not um, doing that great against that O line, Javar Hargrove. And like Coach said earlier, him and Fletcher Cox basically was disappeared.
And we had Ndamukong Suh sighting, but I guess he reverted back to his old ways, and he didn't make another appearance in the game after that point. You know.
Yeah, had a little penalty on. Yeah, yeah. That I mean, come on, man. You in the Super Bowl, man. Compose
You
yourself.
know what they
Compose
say,
yourself.
Coach. Pressure situations really show people who you are. So, unfortunately, we've seen this type of behavior before from them, and why should we expect anything different? So,
But I mean, in so many instances, though, even in this particular instance, he's done these things unnecessarily, and it's unfortunate for him. I mean, he was so talented, and it was like stupid, personal foul penalties. It kind of overshadowed the immense talent that he had. You
uh-huh.
know, anytime he's synonymous for, stomping on people's hands and feet and just doing the silly things, I'm like, man, Sue, I mean, he just think about it. As a nose guard in Nebraska, he was a Heisman Trophy candidate. So it's like, man, come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you got and like Brent Foxx said, like you have to compose yourself. You have to compose yourself, and if you don't, then you're showing that you can't handle pressure. Being the great player as he is, I was gonna say was, but he's still playing. Um, but in a nutshell, gentlemen, I mean, the that was one of the best Super Bowls I've seen in a while, and I mean a while. Uh, Chiefs beat the Eagles 38-35. And Patrick Mahomes did great, but he didn't put up monster numbers like he did through the air like he usually did. Um, Pacheco put the team offensively and the defense, Mahomes in great positions for him to score. So, and of course, Kelsey 8. I mean, I'm gonna say this: Kelsey, the best tight end of our generation, better than Gronk, in my opinion.
Whoa, that's kind of
Okay,
high praise.
yeah, that I could roll with that. As far as like a receiving tight end, yes,
Now, yeah,
yeah.
that's
far as a
I,
receiving tight end,
I would
absolutely.
I would agree with
Receiving
that.
tight end, exactly. Yeah, receiving tight end, exactly. Now Gronk had the Gronk had the total package. He could block.
He definitely could block.
He could get open, but just I mean, nobody's been more clutch than Travis Kelce this year, man, or throughout his years, man, with the Chiefs. Nobody's been more clutch.
Yeah. And I mean, in terms of this particular generation, I mean, it kind of depends on, your cutoff point because, Gronk, you know, especially if the previous era of players, he was the best. I know at one point, my Saints had a little run with Jimmy Graham, but once he got traded to the Seahawks, it was a wrap for him because he wasn't featured in that Seahawks offense. But just in terms of just, this era of players, just as a pure receiving tight end, yeah, I would agree. I think Travis Kelce he's about the best. But like you say, I think is a more complete tight end. Yeah, I mean Gronk is definitely more
Yeah, you're
complete.
right. You're right.
Yeah,
Gronk is more complete, but that's just the as far as receiving tight end, one of the
yeah,
best, man.
yeah, yeah,
He's up there.
yeah,
He's up
yeah.
there.
Without question, without question. Like
And
I said, he reminds me a lot of Jimmy Graham, but the only difference is from a team standpoint, uh, the Chiefs has had more success than the Saints had in that era because the Saints just had won that Super Bowl, and even though they was making deep runs every year, they couldn't get over the hump after that point. And like I said, once he got traded to the Seahawks, and he got sent over there with Russell Wilson, basically he was a blocking tight end after that point, and he wasn't ever a great blocker. He was just a tight end you could split out wide and flex out wide, and he was a matchup nightmare. And Kelce is that and then some.
yes, and the other pick on the defense that Brent Foxx picked, Nick Bolton. You know what linebacker he reminded me of that also wore a Chiefs uniform?
Who was that?
Who? Derek
Derek
Who was
Thomas?
that?
Derek
Derek
Thomas?
Johnson.
Oh, all right, all right. Yeah, Derek Thomas might be a little bit before your time, Jared.
No, not Derek Derek Johnson. He was
No. I was saying Derek Thomas, but I said
oh
I forgot. Derek Thomas might be a little bit before your time.
yeah. Derek Johnson. I mean, sideline to sideline linebacker, could cover, could get to the ball. That's what Nick Bolton reminded me of last night. Always around the ball.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Derek Johnson, man, I think that he was very underappreciated, man.
He was.
Yeah, I think so. I think very much so.
Yeah. Well, hey, gentlemen, I'm gonna have to get in the building, man. But as always, it's great chopping it up with y'all, man. And Jared O11 Green, please, brother, keep inviting me to the shows, man. More likely than not, I'm gonna try to make time because it's important to me.
I
And
appreciate
Coach
you, man.
67. Oh yeah, no problem, brother. And Coach 67, as always, man, I appreciate you as well.
Appreciate you, bro. Big time.
All right, y'all. I'll holler.
Peace and
Olive,
blessings, bro.
man. Congratulations, brother.
All right, thank you, man. All right.
Peace. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was a fabulous Brent Foxx.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He was kind enough to join us while he had to rip and run. In dealing with some obligations that he had to take care of. So, but he was kind enough to take time out and join us. So I really appreciate him, man. But Coach, any final thoughts, my brother,
I mean,
on the Super Bowl and just
the Super,
everything?
the Super Bowl was, awesome. Like I said, it's one of the best Super Bowls I've seen in years. The only thing I really didn't get, in fact, do you know who was the MVP of the Super Bowl? I'm assuming it was Pat Mahomes, but do we know for a fact that Pat Mahomes was the MVP or not? I mean, I'm almost certain nobody else probably won it for the exception of him, but I just kind of want to be certain of that. But outside of me not knowing who the MVP was, I mean, it was an excellent game. One of the best Super Bowls I've seen in years. Certain Super Bowls stand out, and this Super Bowl, it stood out for all the right reasons. I mean, only 3 points separated, the winning team and the losing team. And, one other thing I want to point out, for all these people that's making it seem like the Eagles are just such a trash team, they lost the Super Bowl by 3 points.
Yeah.
They lost the Super Bowl by 3 points. So to make it seem like they're the worst team in the NFL, that is ridiculous. Maybe if you picked them to win and they lost, I would see you having that mindset. But just make it seem like they're a trash team. I mean, had a few calls going in their favor, they could have easily won by 3 instead of losing by 3. So,
And you're so right. And just going back to the other point about you were saying about the MVP, I understand what you're saying. Like, was Mahomes really the MVP? I mean, he threw the which he actually was, but there was a lot of players that I mean you could would you safe to say you could easily gave it to Pacheco or Travis Kelce.
well, I mean, to be truthful, when I was talking earlier about X Factors, X Factor is like, not your primary like option, like maybe a secondary weapon that really could open it up for the primary option. So maybe like just to use a basketball analogy, like if we talking about the Lakers and with when they had Shaq and Kobe, you couldn't pick Shaq or Kobe to be your X factor because they superstar players. So an X factor is gonna be like a Robert Horry, uh, maybe a Derek Fisher. That's an X factor type player. But in this particular game in the Super Bowl, even though Pacheco played well, he really didn't, he didn't excel enough to be an MVP. And even though
Exactly.
Travis Kelce played well, he didn't excel enough to be an MVP. You have to realize in a Super Bowl, more often than not, unless he doesn't play well, more than likely the quarterback is going to win it because he touches the ball every single play from an offense
And I
standpoint.
just asked that question for the people who are
Yeah,
always complaining about, why does the quarter, because there's an unwritten rule. If you look over the years, it said that the MVP is for the quarterback. But in this game, you honestly can't say that because Mahomes on the bad leg, man. Like Brent
he
Foxx said,
balled out.
I
Played well.
mean, that play right there, you thought he was going to be sacked, and he just broke out through the middle and just got that first down. And then he threw the ball, got the ball to to the targets that it needed to go. I mean, he spread it out to Travis Kelce, Juju, Justin Watson, even
McKinnon.
McKinnon. Noah
Yeah.
Gray got one. Kadarius Toney, and then Sky Moore got one for a touchdown for that end around play. So the end around trick play that their I'm blanking on his name. I wanted my Ravens to get him. The offensive coordinator, black guy.
Oh, Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah, Eric Bieniemy did a great job, man.
Yeah, and the fact that he isn't a head coach yet. I mean, I know him and the Commanders are flirting with each other, but bro, there's no way he should not be a head coach at this
He
point
should be, man.
because uh, that's gonna be one of my topics for one of my videos pretty soon. Man, hey, if he would have been a white coach, man, he would have been a head coach at this point. To say, and Tyreek Hill, he's been kind of upset about it. He's been vocalizing, hey, like this guy should be a head coach, even though I don't play for the Chiefs anymore. Why isn't he a head coach in the NFL? And it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I wish my Ravens would fire Harbaugh and get him. Be
Oh
honest
no,
with you.
I'm not gonna lie. I think wherever he goes, if you have any type of weapons, somebody like Lamar Jackson, man, he would really work wonders with Lamar Jackson. You know.
Yeah.
And speaking of Lamar Jackson, uh, I mean, I know we talking about Super Bowl, but what do you think about, them potentially trading him? Because the rumor mill is churning about a blockbuster trade potentially involving him.
If that happens, I think a lot of Baltimore Ravens fans No matter what race, no matter what creed, no matter where they at, it's gonna turn up and be highly upset. The ones that love Lamar, we do have a faction that don't really care for Lamar Jackson, but there's more Lamar lovers than them because anybody that know our history as the Baltimore Ravens, ever since we moved from Cleveland, um, we never truly had a franchise quarterback. Now we got one. We acting like we don't know how to treat him. So
Yeah, like
it doesn't matter
the
about
Trent
him not
Dilfer and
having.
Elvis Gerbach.
Yeah, Joe Flacco, and Joe Flacco played good. Love Joe Flacco, but
Yeah, but I mean he the best of the group. But Trent Dilfer and Elvis Gerbach, man, they didn't like the world on fire, you know.
no,
And,
no, sir.
and Gerbach was
Tony
good for
Banks,
the 49ers. Yeah, yeah.
people like him, yeah, or Kyle Bowler or somebody like that. They definitely didn't light the world on fire, as you said. So if the Baltimore Ravens do not pay that young man, then we deserve what we get. If we don't pay that young man, we're gonna be in the wilderness again without a quarterback, trying to find a quarterback. And we've been, and my thing, we've been there before. And then you can't do that in this era of football. And this generation of football, you can't do that. That's why Jim Irsay and the Colts are scrambling to find a young franchise quarterback because Andrew Luck retired, and you notice that if there are two free agent signings throughout the years. They signed the Matt Carson Wentz, the Matt Ryans, Phillip Rivers because they know they need a more than competent or quarterback. Which I mean, their signings may have been questionable, especially the Carson Wentz or the Matt Ryans.
Yeah, all of them
But
going on the back end too. All of them.
yes, every single one of them. So Jim Irsay, I wouldn't be surprised if and I'm going back to, we talking about the Ravens, I wouldn't be surprised if he pick up Anthony Richardson or somebody because you need a quarterback like that in this generation. I mean, look at the quarterbacks we got today. You know, Josh Allen, dynamic. Patty Mahomes, dynamic. Jalen Hurts, dynamic. Dak, he's dynamic when he wants to be. He's not consistent, but he can light it up. These quarterbacks like that, man. You know, we Josh Justin Herbert.
With the Allen kid in Buffalo, I was talking about last week. My goodness, his first name always slips my mind. Josh Allen.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean you have like dynamic quarterbacks left and right. And to be truthful, I know you talked about Richardson, but I wouldn't be surprised if they jumped up in the draft and they try to make a move for CJ Stroud or maybe even Bryce Young. I mean, I think people are higher on CJ Stroud than Bryce Young. But I mean, we'll see how things play out though,
Mm-hmm. The Falcons may have found their quarterback. They're talking about trade. I don't think Lamar going to the Falcons. I wouldn't.
Well,
I mean,
I think that how popular Mike Vick was in Atlanta. I think that's the reason why, they talk about Lamar Jackson is because they think he would electrify Atlanta the way Mike Vick did.
but that kid Desmond Ritter, give him 1 or 2 more years to learn that playbook, the playbooks, and that who knows, that may be your starting quarterback in the future. But give the young man some time. But to go back to Lamar Jackson, if we fumble Lamar Jackson, we get like my brother said, we get everything that we deserve. We we will get everything that we deserve in a bad way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they better do everything they could instead of giving him 250. I'll give him 265, whatever it takes to keep him happy. That's what I would do if I was in ownership position for the Ravens at this point.
Yes. Yeah, man. Because it's scary. Being positive. I'm thinking, we're gonna figure out something, get a deal for Lamar Jackson. But Raven fans know that our front office will say one thing and do another. So, another thing I want to tell you, Coach.
Yeah, bro. I hear you.
We might trade Patrick Queen. So he might be coming to y'all, man. He might be coming home to Louisiana.
But I mean, the Saints are so far over the cap. I don't see how they can make that happen.
Yep. We will be the Orlando Magic of the NFL when they didn't. Of the NFL when they didn't sign Shaq. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great analogy.
Yeah, it is. But we gotta sign Lamar, man.
Big,
We gotta
big
sign
time,
Lamar.
big time, bro.
But in the nutshell, I just want to hop on and chop it up with you, Coach. I know you ripping and running too. So we're gonna try to get a show in with my brother Jay Good, big bro.
Tomorrow, yes, sir.
So tune in with us at around 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. If there's any changes, I will keep you guys updated. Shout out to the mighty LDBC. Try to have a special guest on here to give his feedback on the Super Bowl, but like all the dudes that I'm associated with in the LDBC are businessmen and they busy, so probably have to catch them next time. But shout out to the mighty LDBC. Coach, is there anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
Well, I'm getting ready to start another show uh pretty soon, so look out for that. Some of the content that I was getting ready to upload, I had some technical issues, so I'm getting ready to mass upload some content leading up to, because in Louisiana here, it's gonna be Mardi Gras Tuesday. So leading up to Mardi Gras, I'm gonna mass upload some content. I was talking to one of my other friends. Basically he was saying that he had uploaded so much content that YouTube restricted him from uploading anymore. I didn't know they had a cap. I think
Wow.
the max you can load is like 11 videos in a day. So I'm gonna try to hit that cap one of these days coming up. So I'm gonna start another show on my own with my with some family members.
Okay.
I just got a lot of stuff coming out of pipe. I'm gonna try to upgrade some of the content I'm producing on my channel, and I got some other things coming out of pipe. So I'll definitely keep everybody posted on what's going
Yeah,
on.
please do, man.
But more than anything, shout out to the awesome and amazing LDBC, all the LDBC family, and major shout out and big ups to everybody that's been rocking with us since day one. We're gonna keep this thing going, and peace and blessings to y'all. Y'all have a blessed and phenomenal Friday evening. We'll catch y'all tomorrow evening, and with our brother Jay Good, we're gonna get it going again.
Yes, that show will be going over the recruiting of the SWAC. Go tackling the Jackson State and Mississippi Valley, see how they did in recruiting, in our opinion. So again, ladies and gentlemen, if y'all just watching this and y'all don't agree with what we said, hey, get off yourself. We just a couple brothers just shoot the breeze. It's all good. But again, y'all have a blessed Friday. Have a blessed weekend. Y'all be safe out here. Y'all have a good night.